so today we said it was September
The 7th.
7th. Yeah, right. 2013. And you're going to basically go through some of the different types of ports we got on this. So this is the Latitude. And Karen, it's the 56...
The E5530.
E5530. And also a little bit on the function keys, and then tell us a little bit what you consider to be the pros and cons comparing this with an Ultrabook, okay?
Sure.
And Karen, what's the Ultrabook? What's the model on that one?
It's the Series 9.
Series 9? Okay,
Yeah.
Series 9. Gotcha. And it's their top of the line, with the solid state and so
Yes.
forth. Okay. All right, go ahead.
So comparing this Latitude to the Ultrabook, the target demographic is a little bit different, obviously. The Ultrabook is considered a highly portable machine, optimized specifically for battery life and portability. The Latitude is more of a traditional laptop in the sense that it's got an optical drive like you would find on a traditional PC. It's got a built-in VGA. Also, it has the PCI Express or Mini PCI Express.
Which I think you should comment that most people probably won't use that.
Most people don't use it, but the Express card slot is still a pretty important expansion slot for some folks, and being that this machine isn't designed for ultra portability, they do still put them on there. And of course, we still have the traditional USB 3.0.
What about the SanDisk?
There is also SD card slot on here too, as well,
right.
which we do find those on most of the solids or most of the Ultrabooks out there today,
Right.
including the Samsung Series 9.
Right.
The external serial ATA port, which also actually doubles as a USB port.
Now talk a little bit about the Serial ST.
Well, external serial ATA is a high-speed interface you can use for some external drives. Not as popular anymore as a result of the invention of USB 3.0, but
Right.
still some people have it, so it's nice to have the backwards compatibility there.
Right. So,
Don't see that a lot on Ultrabooks, actually.
right.
And then, of course, HDMI out, which is pretty popular all around the block.
Right. And by the way, while you're on this side over here, people are going to probably wonder what this is for. This is for just the fan.
Right. That's just exhaust vent for cooling.
Right.
And on a traditional laptop, it's a lot easier with the space that you have to have that kind of surface area to cool. Most Ultrabooks actually, the exhaust comes through either the keyboard or actually through where the LCD panel meets the machine. It's a lot more concealed. And obviously, there's some immediate differences between this machine and an Ultrabook. Ultrabooks don't have your numpad or your 10 key here, which a lot of people do find that pretty important, especially if you do a lot of data entry. Some people can't live without that particular feature. The J mouse too, this little guy, you don't find that on Ultrabooks very often.
And that basically allows you to move your cursor around, right?
Yeah, some people don't prefer the touchpad. They do find this to be a little bit more convenient for them. A lot of the, especially like those IBM folks, they kind of invented that.
Right.
This particular one was a configure to order machine from Dell, whereas Ultrabooks, you don't really get much of an option. They come as they are. They have different versions of it. Maybe they have one with a 256 gigabyte solid state, maybe one with a 128, maybe one with an i7 instead of an i5, but you don't really get much of a choice after that. This particular machine, especially in dealing with Dell, you can configure essentially everything that you want, from the memory size, the hard drive size, the screen resolution and quality. You can have a Blu-ray burner in there or just a traditional DVD, CD rewriter. So in this particular case, this one is a configure to order. It's not an off-the-shelf version.
And in the future, you can upgrade with this, but where you can't do that effectively.
The Ultrabooks, for the most part, are a sealed system in that they're not user-friendly at all to upgrade. The memory in them is actually typically soldered on the board, so you can't add RAM. There's no memory slot. Even some of them, the hard drive is on the board, and you can't do anything with the drive.
We should also point out here on this little I guess you call it keypad, this thing right here, that this has separated the right and the left, whereas on the Ultrabook it's all one single pad, and it can be a little confusing.
Some of them do that. That varies more to the manufacturer level.
Gotcha.
Like Apple and Samsung, they tend to merge the two buttons, and it's which side you pivot on.
Right.
Whereas like Asus, they have a line between the buttons, and you
Gotcha.
have a distinguished
Good point.
left and right mouse button.
Good point.
obviously the standard controls for most notebooks are here. There's a lot less going on up here on the top row than you would see on that Ultrabook, just because the Ultrabook, again, is optimized for these low power conditions. And the Ultrabook had a backlit keyboard. This one does not. So you don't have as many functions up here. You have the traditional FN key that you have.
This actually is backlit, and these is backlit. It's automatically shut off because we're in a bright room.
Right.
Which is a nice thing, but this has a backlit and it does work.
Okay. You still have the FN key, which of course you always have to hold when you address any of the special functions from that top row. And you can see the FN here is orange, and of course those symbols are orange.
Well, let's go through the symbols. Where this little moon here is what?
So the moon is sleep. So if I were to press that, the machine would actually just go to sleep.
Okay.
Nothing on F2. F3 is your scroll lock.
Okay.
Not a lot of people use that anymore, but it's there in case you need it. F5 and F8 are probably the two that you'll use most often. F5 will disable or enable the trackpad.
Okay.
A lot of people, when they're typing, they have a tendency to rest their hand on the trackpad and they can move the cursor around. That's really irritating, so you can completely disable the trackpad. And then F8 toggles between your display devices. So if you have, again, this is a more traditional laptop, so it's got that VGA connector on the side, as well as the HDMI on the opposite side. And if you do plug in a monitor or television or whatever you like, that's how you would toggle between those displays, whether the built-in panel or your external display.
I want you to move over to the other side here because I'm getting a lot of reflection here. Okay, good.
The only other options, the only other features set that you don't normally see in this place, normally you see them up here, which is your brightness control. So you do have the brightness control, but it's over here on the arrow keys.
Right.
It's not common. Some laptops do this, some don't. In this particular case, the Latitude series, they do put the brightness controls there.
Right.
You still have to hold FN, of course, because it's orange.
And remember, that's for the screen.
That's for the screen brightness, right?
And then for the keyboard, you see that right there.
It's not really an optional brightness. It's a toggle. Either it's on or it's off.
Gotcha.
The Ultrabook, you could actually change that level of brightness.
So
it's just either.
Go ahead
on
and
or
do
off.
that, and it'll pop up here. So go ahead and do
Let's
that.
see if it will.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
There
So
it
it tells you how much brightness you want on your keyboard here.
Oh, there you go. And then you just
Select what
got
you
a
want.
few different options in there.
Right, there you go. Okay.
Otherwise, that's pretty much it for the feature set. And of course, you've got the regular print screen, pause buttons up there. Not a lot of folks use that anymore.
What's print screen? What is that?
Print screen, well, what is it today, or what was it 20 years ago?
Oh,
20 years ago, it would actually output whatever's on the screen to a printer.
Gotcha.
Today, it will take a screenshot and put it in the clipboard.
Gotcha.
If you were to hit print screen, well, function in print screen, of course, and open up a program like Word or even Paint, you could paste, and it would paste a screenshot of what was on the screen when you hit the key, which is pretty handy, actually. That works on all Windows operating systems. It's not really a function of the machine; it's a function of Windows. Otherwise, those are the primary key differences. This particular machine does have the fingerprint sensor. That is an option on some Ultrabooks, and some it's not. It's more of a preference of the manufacturer.
Okay.
In fact, you can actually configure this particular machine to come with it or not.
Okay.
Some people like them, some people don't.
Okay.
Otherwise,
One of the things the Latitude brand as compared to their Inspiron, it's a more how would you say, damage resistant. In other words,
the build quality is different, right? The Inspiron is your standard consumer grade build quality. The Latitude is designed with the business professional in mind. The machine's going to be mobile. The machine is going to be used and hammered on. Heavy use, maybe not necessarily like video rendering or really high power use, but a lot of use, extended time use.
Right.
So they tend to be built a little bit better. Of course, with that comes the other part of the trade-off in comparison to an Ultrabook, where the Ultrabook weighs under 2 pounds.
Right.
This tends to weigh in the area of 4 or even more in some cases. And the battery life suffers a bit as a result of that, since the Latitudes tend to have a little bit more powerful processors in them. If you don't have a solid-state hard drive in them, the regular mechanical disks, 500 gigabyte hard drives or whatnot, they'll take significantly more wattage. So you don't get the battery life that you do out of an Ultrabook, but for most business professionals, they're going to be stationary and plugged in using AC power.
Right. The other thing we should point out for completeness, the next level up from the Latitude is what they call the Precision line, which we have some. and we use those. Again, that's made for more, how would you say, heavy lifting, high power, need for a lot of demand in video editing, that sort of thing.
Yes, the precision machines, they're really heavy hitting machines. They're configurable for much faster processor speeds, much more memory. They typically have 2 hard drive bays for a lot of mass storage. They tend to be more along the desktop replacement category, right? Big, heavy machines designed for people that don't have any other machine but still need that really heavy-hitting computing power.
Right.
It's typically users' one and only computer.
Right. Gotcha. Very good. I want you to turn this thing over and show one other feature on it, and that is on the bottom here you have a dock. Okay. You can see that there. So this thing can be docked.
Right.
Which means you can use basically the computer with a separate keyboard, separate monitor, and so
Correct.
forth.
Yeah. This particular one, and not all of them have this, but this one does support Dell's standard docking station, which that comes in a couple of different flavors as well, with or without CD-ROM, with or without additional storage. But for a lot of, especially because it's a Latitude, and if you are a business professional and you take your work home with you every day, you can undock the machine, take it home with you, do your job, come to work, dock it, and then sit down in front of a normal, ergonomically correct keyboard, mouse, monitor.
Sure.
And that's important especially for a lot of businesses, because you want to support, healthy
Right.
working. So.
And our Karen over here does that rather routinely with her precision, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And it seems like those are interchangeable at the docking station.
Yes,
Right.
yeah, they've been universal for a little while. They change it once every 5 or 6 years or so just to refresh their revenue generation. But
Right. Very good. Well, I think we covered everything. Karen, do you have any questions?
one more thing.
Oh, one more thing.
Yeah, just to point out, this one obviously has the full-size regular Ethernet port on it, whereas the Ultrabook doesn't have Ethernet. While they both have built-in Wi-Fi, the Ultrabook you have to use that little dongle for Ethernet.
Right, because it's so thin.
Because
you
it's so
can't-
thin, you can't even fit
Right.
something like that. But
And
of
that-
course, this is a traditional machine, and it does have that.
Yes, and it's also true for the external optical drive and so
Correct,
forth. All
right.
these things have to be carried as separate.
Well, and when you consider the fact that if you do need to physically cable to a network and use an external CD-ROM drive at the same time, you've effectively used all of the USB ports on
That's
your
right.
Ultrabook.
That's right.
So you can't attach any external storage or a thumb drive or a printer.
Right.
Again, Ultrabooks have a very specific target demographic.
And in
that
summary,
is-
it's for the person who is not interested in upgrading, a person who
Right.
says, whatever, 2 years down the road, I'm going to just buy another.
Right. It's for the person who's always on the road, always traveling, doesn't have a need for much other than internet access.
Right.
Maybe they're going to be on a flight for 8 hours, so they want that battery life.
Right.
And they don't have a lot of storage requirements.
Right, exactly. Okay, very good.